It's opening day tomorrow morning, deer hunting here, so
So you
getting up early.
we're going to introduce you, and then from there we'll just start the conversation.
No problem, bud.
Matt and Ant Show, we welcome Rob Ray.
What's up, guys?
How are you?
I'm doing well. Trying to get through everything that's going on right now, but it's been good. It's been nice being at home, getting to know the family again.
Are you excited for hockey season to start after the new year?
Yeah, you know what? It's time. I think that I think they've done a good job. They did a great job last year in the playoffs and the whole bubble thing. They handled it extremely well. And, for us here in Buffalo, they've made a lot of really good changes. And for the first time in a long time, we're sitting here actually really excited to get things going. A few years in the past, it's been kind of a lot of the same old, but the changes that Kevin Adams has made, he's done a pretty darn good job. And I think it's really sparked the interest and the excitement in everybody here in town again.
Absolutely. Getting Taylor Hall was a huge get. No one saw that.
Oh, Stahl and Hall. And, it's just these guys are going to bring a huge, huge advantage to this team. And, Jack's a guy that's done a lot on his own.
Yeah.
And, the guys around him are getting a little more mature and better at the game. But, you're inserting two guys that are high-end talent that have been very successful in the game. And, it's going to take a lot of weight off his shoulders. And I'll tell you what, Jack Eichel's a beautiful skater. Taylor Hall is unbelievable. And if I was an opposing D when I seen them come on the ice, I'd be getting my ass off the ice because the speed that they're going to come at you is going to be sick.
They're going to be incredible to watch this year.
It should be.
See that because you guys had a good run in the beginning of the 2000s with Briere, Drury, all them, and then it went a little downhill once Ryan Miller left. But I think it's back finally.
Yeah, you know what? Like in the late '90s, we went to conference final in '98, the Stanley Cup Finals '99. Kind of pulled back there for a year or two, but coming out of the lockout, with Briere, Drury, these guys, they really, really got the attention of town. And it's those kids now that are the fans that are going to the games on a regular basis. So that's kind of the group that they grew up with. So, yeah, this is giving them something, kind of special. You know what kids are like? They got to relate to a star. They got to relate to somebody. And now you got those guys. So the interest is just off the charts. I coach a 12-year-old team here in town with my son. And, these kids, it's all they're talking about is Hall, Stahl, Eichel. So that interest is where it needs to be is with the kids. And it is right now. So let's just hopefully they can make the most of it.
It's going to be crazy. Do you think they're going to re-up Paldo for more years, or you think
you're going to have to wait and see. You got to see if there's chemistry between these two guys. And, Taylor come in here because, he wanted a chance to play with Jack Eichel. He wanted to play with a high-end talent guy. He had a great relationship with Ralph Kruger, the coach, because they were together in Edmonton. So that was a big part of why he wanted to come here. So it's in Taylor Hall's court right now to come in and do it and, establish himself for this next big contract. If he wants it, then the door's open for him. He's got to just take it.
Absolutely. It's going to be a huge season for all three of them.
Going back to your time in your career, what was the highlight of your career?
Well, it's kind of hard to point one out. I came from a small town of 1,200 people, so I was the first kid to ever get drafted to the NHL to have a chance to play. So it was a pretty big thing for my area. And, I felt the whole time coming up through that I wasn't just doing it for myself. I was representing them. And, so that was a pretty cool feeling. And they were so supportive. But I think when you got that, I was lucky. I got to play my first game. I scored in it, and I was just off the charts. That is something I'll never forget. And, 99 going to the finals, playing Dallas in the finals. It's what you dream of as a kid, playing in the driveway. And, it's not game 38th in the middle of the winter. It's, Stanley Cup Finals and, scoring a game-winning goal. All that kind of thing is what you dream of a kid. You had a chance to do it. So, there was so many that it's kind of hard to pinpoint one, but I was pretty lucky because I've got more than one.
Yeah. You've had a ton of fights in the NHL.
Yeah.
I was lucky to see one in person. I saw you face Donald Brashear. Oh, who was your favorite opponent to fight, and what was your greatest fight that you remember to this day?
Well, I think the fight that actually kind of turned things around for me to say that, hey, I can do this at this level, because coming up through, I never played that way.
Yeah.
And when I got drafted here and then got sent to Rochester after my training camp, John Van Boxmeer said, hey, this is what they're looking for. This is what they want you to do. You want to do it? Are you willing to do it? And I'm like, show me how. Show me how. Because the desire was so deep to make it that I was going to do whatever it took to get here. So coming up through you, I don't think I was ever really confident doing it. You just did it out of fear and because you had to for so long. But one night at the Forum, I fought Dave Brown. And, and he was a guy that I grew up watching. And I did really well against him. And, I caught him with a good one right at the cheek at the end. Both of our jerseys are off. And just before that, I can remember John Muckler standing on the bench screaming, don't do it, don't do it. And I'm like, too late, dude. We're into this now. But skating away from that, I was like, shit, I can do this. I just did that with one of the best in the game. And so it kind of gave you that confidence. But, Ty and I, Domi, we fought, I think, 13 times in the NHL. There was a lot of guys that, because you played a lot of divisional games back then, dancing Denny VL, man, I don't know how many times I fought that guy. You mentioned Donald Brashear, man, I fought him in Montreal and Winnipeg, or where was he? Vancouver, with you guys in the Flyers. So he was actually my last fight in the NHL too, and I was with Ottawa.
Actually, the last fight.
That was the last fight. You remember? Was that the game you were at when Ottawa was the big brawl, shift after shift after shift? And I never get caught in fights. And I hadn't played hockey for 9 months up to that point. And I had played like 3 games in the American League, got called back up to Ottawa because I had retired and I was doing the television.
Yeah.
So out of shape, out of everything. I was leaking out of both corners of my eyes after that, and I skate off, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing? This is beyond me again. And then it continued to be a big brawl after that. But Donald Brashear is a hell of a fighter. That guy was tough as nails.
What your favorite team to play against?
Favorite team was probably Toronto, because I grew up about 2 hours from Toronto. Toronto was almost halfway between here and my hometown. So, it was kind of right there. And that was the chance where people from home got to come and watch me there too, back in the old Maple Leaf Gardens. So it was always neat playing those guys up there. When they got moved into our conference, then you played it a little bit more. But, earlier years, you'd only play them once, maybe twice. But, I always enjoyed going to Toronto. I loved going to Montreal. I loved going to Boston. It was the old buildings. You got a great feel. Even the Spectrum was, those kind of places had personality and character. And, as a player, that's, you feed off that. And, now it's not quite the same. You go to these buildings, they're pretty much all the same. And you don't get the same feel, when you're playing. But, there was places, Boston, you couldn't get off the ice without getting bombarded with stuff. It was a chaotic atmosphere. You go into Montreal and it was all suits and it was a classy game. And, Toronto, that was a place where, people would say, do anything. It was just incredible to experience a lot of those things.
Is there anything that you did before a game to get you ready for a game?
Not really. You know what? I was always kind of, I could turn it on and off with a switch, but when you were going into a games, and it happened quite often, that you knew you were going to probably fight somebody in that game because whomever you were playing, there was somebody on it all the time, that you started thinking about it like the day before. And, sometimes there was a lot of sleepless afternoons, and you couldn't wait to get to the rink just to get it over with so we can get on and play the game. But, for myself, I didn't like to get over too hyped up. It was fill up with coffee once you got there, take a couple aspirin, so if you did get hit, it doesn't hurt quite as bad, and get on with the game. But I was not a superstitious guy. I never did a lot of things superstitious wise, only because my good games were so few and far between. I could never remember what I did when I had a good game. So, and you do it the next, it didn't work. So I never really got too deep into that.
What is your favorite moment of your career?
Favorite moment, I think probably the first time that, my parents were able to come to a game and watch. In the 90s, it used to be pretty cool here when things would get crazy out on the ice, especially in the old odd. The whole building would start chanting, we want Ray and all this kind of thing. And, my mom and dad would be there, and it would be like they're looking around going, what? And then you'd go out and do your thing. And so I think just getting the chance to play in front of your family was the coolest thing. Buddies. We were in Toronto one time, Maple Leaf Gardens, and the only breakaway I ever had in my career. And I ended up scoring. I took the first shot, the rebound came right back to my stick. I shot it again on this breakaway. I score, I wipe out in the corner, excited, everything, Maple Leaf Gardens scoring a goal. Get back to the bench, and in Maple Leaf Gardens, there was no bench really. It was just, and the crowd was right there so they could walk. I'm sitting on the end of the bench and I'm happy as hell. Next thing you know, I got two buddies sitting beside me that came down out of the crowd, down to the bench, and they're sitting on the end of the bench with me, high-fiving me. And I'm like, what the hell are you guys doing? You got to get out of here. And they're like, are you kidding me? This is the greatest thing in the world. So just experiences like that, it meant a lot to me, and it still does. I just think that, a lot of trivial things happen, but I think when you can share it with family and friends, it's so much better.
What were we going to say? Now that you're in commentating, is there a player that you get really excited to see?
You know what? It seems like every team now has that guy. Fortunately, I get to watch Jack every night. Jack's sick. And, some of the stuff he does, it's just truly amazing. But you find yourself some nights, it's like, Jack, because he does so much, and he does so many great things that you got to kind of, spread the love around a little bit sometimes to the other guys too. But, there's guys like even Barzell and these kind of guys, and, Connor McDavid, there's somebody on every team that's just truly amazing skater, electrifying, and you just love the way they can go and play the game. That I'm lucky as heck, man, because my job, I'm between the benches, so you still get a good feel for it. You're sitting up top in the press box. Sometimes you have to be up there, and you just don't get the same feel for the game. So when you're down there, it's almost like being a player, and you're in the game. Pucks are coming in, sticks are coming in, guys are getting knocked over the boards, and it's like, yeah, this is cool. So, it's just to pick one guy, no. But I'll tell you what, it's a joy, and that every night walking Eichel, then it's even Darlene now too. He's a sick player, man. This kid is so smooth, and just getting the chance to watch these guys every night is pretty neat.
Is there a player right now that remind
You of yourself?
Those guys are few and far between now. Like there's guys, Ryan Reeves and these kind of guys. Ryan Reeves, a hell of a, he does his job really well, and I really appreciate the way he plays. But there's so few of those guys now because the game has changed so much that to sit and say that guy, no, I don't think they're in the league anymore. Tell you the truth, and back in the day, you had to play the game as well, and you couldn't just go do that. You had to be responsible defensively. You had to chip in here and there. You had to eat up minutes, when you were called upon. So, everybody a lot of the times looks at it and go, "Oh, you did was fight." Well, no, that's not right. You had to play too, and you had to be productive and reliable too. So, because most of the guys that play that role didn't play that role all the way coming up through, because if you did, you never would have made it. So it's almost like when you can get there and you're big enough and you're willing to do it and be able to skate. And, that was that's why when I went to Roch, John Van Boxmeer said, hey, this is what they want. And so that year in Roch, I only played 63 games, I think. And I had 46 fighting majors. I might have won 2 and 446 minutes in penalties, but that was what I was there to do. That's what to learn the craft, to learn how to do it. When I got the opportunity to take the next step, that I'd be prepared and ready to do it. So, for a guy that never really did it a ton, and then all of a sudden getting thrown into that, some nights you sat there and you laid in bed and going, what the hell am I doing? But, and you wake up the next morning, you couldn't wait to get to the rink, to keep it going.
Was there a player when you got called up and you played against them the first time, you're like, holy cow, I'm playing against them now?
My first game, dude. My first shift in the NHL, it was Paul Coffey, it was Mario Lemieux, and I scored on my first shift. And we were in Pittsburgh, and I was on a line with Kevin McGuire and Scott Arniel. And, Mike Ramsey to Scotty Arniel to myself. I went over the blue line, took the slap shot, scored on Tom Barrasso, my first goal. And, I still got the game sheet. I got it photocopied and kept it just to prove that, hey, when I did score, it wasn't a bunch of schmucks on the ice. Look who was on the ice when I actually got a chance to score that goal. So it was sweet. It was sweet. So, but I can remember the first time in Edmonton playing against Wayne Gretzky, sitting on the bench watching him. And I can't remember who I was sitting beside. And I'm going, this guy's amazing. And he looks at me and he goes, you know what? You play the game that Wayne wants to play. If he wants a fast tempo game, that's what everybody plays. If he wants to slow the pace down, that's what happens in the game. And he goes, not even wanting to do it. He just had a knack of controlling whatever tempo he wanted to play out there. So it was, I got lucky. I think that you look back and a lot of the guys that in NHL history that were unbelievable, you got a chance to play with or against that, as a kid growing up, you've seen a lot of them, and then all of a sudden you're playing against them, and it's the most amazing feeling you could have.
I can't even imagine.
You had your coach, your son, I believe. Am I right?
He said
What's that, bud?
You coach Pee Wee hockey, right?
Yeah, my son is 12U, so I coach them. Yeah.
Is there something that you had on to your son?
What do I pass on to my son?
Like any advice you give him every time?
Yeah, you know what? These kids at this age, they're like sponges, and they want to ask questions. They want to know a lot about everything. And the game now, it's all speed, it's skill. And you tell these guys, you got to work on your skating, you got to work on your skill. To even move on to go play high school hockey, to play college if you can someday. So my advice, it's work hard. It's just biggest thing is work hard. We got a pretty decent little team here, and it's just if you can get in their heads that every time they're on the ice they have to work hard, whether they accomplish anything, as long as they work hard, then that's the biggest thing. And these kids understand that, and you sit and they'll ask questions, you tell stories, and they listen to you. It's not like they're not looking at you going, the hell do you know type thing. They because of the town you're in and maybe the reputation you have, that they listen. And I think it's the greatest thing. There's nothing better than after a game getting in the truck, driving home, and talking to my son about the game, what he did, and how this move and that move, and he'd be like, hey, did you see when I did this? And it's cool as heck, man.
Have you ever considered coaching at higher levels, like juniors, maybe AHL, ECHL, or NHL?
No, you know what I always looked at it as, you worked so hard to get a name, recognition, whatever it may be. And now by doing what I'm doing, I can do this for, as long as I want moving forward type thing. When a coach, I always had the feeling that if you ever got, say, a coach and you weren't successful at it and you got fired from it, that would destroy everything you built up over the years. And I just never had that desire to want to be a coach or something. You know, maybe as you get a little older, maybe something in the management side of it, but nothing, never on the bench. No, I would. My own biggest fear is not being successful at
Is there anything that you want to do besides what you're doing right now?
it. Is there anything I'd like to do?
Yeah.
You know, here now, I got a couple businesses that I do. I got a bunch of apartments, buildings, and all that kind of thing that I look after and manage. And you know, it keeps your time. It keeps you busy. You know, you got baseball coaching in the summer. You got hockey coaching in the winter. You know, for me, my son now, he's, as I said, he's 11. We love to fish. We love to get out hunting. So, you know, it what it has done is open up the opportunity to have a lot of that time where you can spend it with, you know, your kids. I left home when I was 14, 15 years old. And so you missed a lot of that with your dad. And you know, I look back now and you regret it. So I try to make up for it as much as possible now. You know, we started golfing in the summer, so it's good getting out there and spending some time with them. And, you know, just anything like that. And I think that anything more getting involved with it would take away from that. And, you know, if you don't have to, I'd rather spend my free time, you know, with the family doing something.
Is there any, can you see yourself being on a TV show or a game show for that matter?
Do you see myself staying on TV?
Or no, like something outside of hockey, but still like in the entertainment realm.
Nah. No, you know what? This day and age now, with my personality, I'd get in trouble because I'd say something. You know, it's like, you know, you do stuff and you're always kind of being guarded and watching what you say. And you know, even in games, I just sit there and there's things you want to say, but you know, you can't say. And no, you know what? This is a town you get involved in a lot of things. So you're doing a lot of different things. I run our alumni here, so you're busy with that too. So, you know, as far as that side of it, I experienced it once. One game I had to fill in on NBC, and then it wasn't nearly as much fun as it was working with our own crew and you know, just kind of, you know, concentrating on one team and all that. You know, that becomes a job then. Now this is fun. So I'm at a point in my life where I don't want to have that stress. I just want to go and have fun with it. And you know, I think this is the best way.
Did you have a favorite teammate during your career?
I had a lot of them. There was a lot of guys that, you know, when I first got here, you know, Grant Ledgerd was awesome with me. You know, Mike Ramsey, we talked about, he was fantastic. Clint Malarchuk, Dave Anderchuk, Sean Tucker. These kind of guys really kind of made you feel a part of things early. Dougie Bodger. And then as you got older, you know, and started being around more guys your age, you know, Rhett Warner had a great time with Rhett. You know, he was always a lot of fun. Matthew Barnaby, Brad May. You know, these guys, we created an awful lot of havoc on and off the ice for a long time, and we had a ton of fun. So, yeah, you know what? I look back, and there was so many good guys. We were able this past year because it was our 50th and had a lot of guys in throughout the year, and we had a lot of good times and laughs, and it was great to see a lot of them, Dixon Ward, you know, guys like that you just, you know, not sitting there as a superstar guys, but we had a lot of fun. We worked hard and we were great teammates, and in turn have a lot of respect for each other.
Is there anybody that you talk to for your time that you play now?
Anybody I talk to?
Yeah.
Yeah, I stay in touch with a lot of the guys. As I said, that, you know, running our alumni, I'm always in touch with these guys. And, you know, you're always like, the greatest thing about the road sucks as doing what I do, you know, because there's a lot of downtime. But the best part of it is you go to certain places and, you know, there's guys there that you played with. So, you know, you make contact with them before you get there. You know, every time we go to Calgary, there's like 10 or 12 of us that go to dinner, you know, Ken Sutton and all these kind of guys, Paul Cruz. You know, all the guys that you played with, they're all living in that area. You know, just wherever you go, there's somebody that you came across and played with. So, you know, you kind of reach out, make sure you stay in touch with these guys. And it's a great opportunity normally you might not just, make the effort to go visit somebody. This way it makes it easy because, you're already going to these places. You got the time. So, you try to spend as much time with them as you can. And a lot of guys you played with are still in the business too. So you see them at the rink a lot, whether they're coaching, whether they're scouting or whatever it may be, you see them around the rink all the time. So it's great because when you're done with the game, you just didn't walk away. I know guys that, walk away from the game and they haven't seen or talked to anybody since. And, they're okay with that. They just start their own life and move on. It's nice to be in my position that I can still stay in touch and communicate with all those guys.
Do you have any bold predictions for the upcoming season for Buffalo Sabres fans and for the NHL?
Well, I think it's, let's just fingers crossed, pray to God here that we can, get things going in time and have a good season. Obviously, it's going to be a shorter season. In turn, I think it makes it really exciting because I think every game is going to mean so much. Yeah. And, there's not going to be that night when you can just say, oh, well, let's worry about the next one. It's going to mean so much. And, especially if they break it down into these conferences I've talked about. With the Sabres, that's a tough conference they're going to be in. And you got to be on top of your game right from day one, to stay competitive. And you got a lot of new guys coming into that dressing room that are going to have to mesh together and gel and get themselves playing on the same wavelength. So I think personally, look at our guys. Our guys haven't played since May. They're going to be biting the bullet to get out there and get going and do what they got to do. I just think that the game itself has got so good that there's no real teams out there. There's the odd one that kind of, you kind of can look at. But even on our side, like Ottawa and all these teams, even they got so much better. You're sitting there. I love, Carolina, and I love the Rangers. They got a young squad there that, is really good. There's so many Washingtons, even Philly. My God, Islanders. These teams are good. Easy. And there's no dog out there anymore. There's no dog. And it's like, even with us, we've had trouble for the last few years. But any given night, you could beat the top team in the NHL, and do it handily. And it was just a consistency problem. So I just think that this year, I think, because of so many guys have not played, that it's going to be the level of the game should be off the charts for, whether it's 50, 60 games, whatever it may be.
Can you imagine being in this time and playing the game now?
Yeah. And I sit there and I go, I actually think now that the game that we played back then, like say an intimidation game, just hard, rugged. I'm not talking fighting because it's not there as much. But if you went out there and just went at teams, I could see so many guys just packing their tent going, what the hell, get me out of here. Like, because they're not used to it. Not that they're bad. There's nothing about them. It's just they're not used to having to play that game. And I think that if you had, like, if I was going to put a team together, I'd have a couple lines that were very responsible defensively, but just went out and hit the crap out of everybody. Because I think you could intimidate and play that game so well and be so effective now. Because I look at guys out there and, you see guys get hit and they're apologizing to each other. It's like, apologize. What did I just hear here? If you could play that, be that mean, nasty, kind of thing, I think it would be such an advantage to whomever may try to do it.
That could help so many superstars in the league, having like that type of guy around them.
Well, I'll tell you what, I got a chance to play with Patty LaFontaine, Dale Howard, Chuck Mogilny, all these kind of guys. And when you went out and played that game and, got somebody off their ass or, just went out and said a few things and banged around, it calmed everybody down so they could just go play their game and it opened up the ice for them. And, there's nothing better than having one of those guys after the game come up and say, hey, thanks for getting him off my tail. Thanks for taking care of that. Because it allowed them to go do what they had to do. And, that's the greatest pat in the back you ever have.
Absolutely. We want to thank Rob Ray for joining us today on the Matt and Ann Show. Anything you want to promote, Rob?
No, I'm not one of those guys, man. I love doing my Instagram there. I do it, RobRate32, kind of show what me and my family and that are out doing and have a lot of fun with it. But other than that, we, I just kind of stay by myself and live that life now.
That's awesome. We want to thank you so much for joining us today. It was an honor.
I'm very honored. I'm happy to have you on. So it's been great to have you. I hope we can have you come back.
Well, guys, I'd come back and do your show anytime you want to, and I'm not going to hold it against you that you're wearing a Flyer shirt. It's okay.
Make sure
It was probably a free shirt or something that they gave out, but I love it. I love just talking the game and talking to guys like yourself that are fans, and seeing the other side. And the greatest thing, look, normally you think a Flyer or somebody from Philly and Buffalo would actually get along and talk. Normally you see them pissing and moaning and yelling and screaming at each other. It doesn't have to be that way.
Yelling at our fans back in the
90s. Oh, I'll tell you what. I don't know if he got his ass kicked more by the opposition or the guys in his own room, because it happened all the time. Because some nights you just get so sick of hearing it's like, shut up. Just shut up, please. And because he would always go out and stir it up and run his mouth. And then we would have to go out and take care of it, because he'd weasel his way out of it and he'd get a shitstorm started out there, and then we'd have to go take care of it. But I love the man. He's got the greatest heart. He used what he had to the fullest, and he did a great job and he had a great career. So it's still, he's one of those guys you look at. It's a friend, and you talk to periodically, and just you just hope the best for him.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rob Ray.
Guys, anytime. Take care.
You
Stay
too.
safe.
Thank you so much.